Hey guys, welcome to another live session here from Encoder Fashion, and today we are going to continue working on CLO 3D crash course for beginner. So right now I'm here and welcome you guys to CLO 3D Basic. Today we are going to continue where we left off from last week. We were working on dots, and right here I was explaining about you can create dot with base lines tool as well as internal lines tool, which is dot here. Right now we are going to continue to the next tool that we are going to use this tool for making pattern in CLO 3D. Alright, so let's begin. So before we begin doing that though, I want to point out a couple of things here. So this month I'm gaining more membership for Encoder Fashion, and I want to thank you guys so much for believing in me and support Encoder Fashion. And this is right here the membership courses that are available to for everyone around the world. However, though, some country like in Albania, you won't be able to see membership unless you use a VPN. So if you guys come over here to Encoder Fashion, or when you in Google, if you want to find Encoder Fashion, go to Google and then type in Encoder Fashion, click search, and here we are, Encoder Fashion. And if you guys happen to don't see like membership here, you can leave a comment right below the video. I will show you a step-by-step or a video on how to sign up for VPN so you can sign up for membership and so on. Now let me point out this cool thing here. So if you want to learn more about pattern making course focusing on use CLO 3D to create patterns, such as right here I have advanced pattern making sport bra, and come down here I have sewing sleeve curves with pleat, and down here I have basic t-shirt to knit sweater. And another course that I want to point out here, automatic pattern making tool in CLO 3D and making pants and skirt and tops and so on. So if you guys interested or signing up for these courses, it's $4.99 per month and you can cancel at any time, guys. So let's say you want to sign up and you want to learn all these courses that are available right now. You can sign up and then you can cancel it. You can only charge for that month. Another thing I want to point out here, I'm going to continue uploading more and more fashion pattern making courses using CLO 3D from basic to advanced. Alright, so now let's take a look at my pattern store here. I have many patterns for sale as well as some fabric and this amazing knit fabric here. They are really good quality knit fabric that you can bring into CLO and apply into your garment. And let's get back to CLO, and I'm going to actually close this for now because we don't need it, and now we are here back in CLO. So once again guys, welcome to CLO Basic Crash Course. Today we are going to continue using essential tool for pattern maker. So here we go. Right now I'm going to begin using these two tools, super useful, to create curve for waist as well as for neck and for armhole. Also the curve on the hips too. Let's say in a real life we would use like hip curve ruler to create curve. In CLO we use this curvature tool and smooth curve tool. So for me to show you an example, first of all let me create this pointy on the hip here. So I'm going to use this edit pattern tool here and then come down here, click on this edit pattern tool here, and then come down here, click on this add point/split line tool, and I'm going to click one right here. Give me a second guys, I'm going to close this as well. and I'm going to simply click one right here. So right here, if I switch the tool back to edit pattern tool, and I can click and then adjust the point here. And let's say I don't want this curve for now. I'm going to click on that point and then press on the delete or backspace on the keyboard to delete, because I'm going to create curve here using the smooth curve tool. Okay, all right. First, we'll go to the edit. So last week I explained about this tool here when they are in blue, which means that tool is active. Let's say if I click on the transform pattern tool, that tool right now is turned blue, which means that tool is now active. Why it is important? In Close 3D, if you on the wrong tool, certain function it doesn't work. Let's say for example, if I want to create a ruler, and if I'm not in edit pattern tool or transform pattern tool, I can't create a ruler. For example, I'm going to show ruler here, and then I'm going to want to create guide. Okay, so if I want to create guide, I only can be on this transform pattern tool or edit pattern tool. So if I'm on this tool here, now I can't really grab and create guide. So if I'm on transform pattern tool right now, I can simply click create guide from left to right, from top down, and so on, just like that. The same with this edit pattern tool as well. If I click and then drag it down here, I can create guide. However, though, if I'm on different tools beside these two, now this guideline doesn't work. So I'm going to switch my tool back to transform pattern tool here, and then right click on that guideline, and we want to delete all guidelines here. Okay, so just important, and also I think thing to remember in CLO, once again, if we on the right tool, we will see the function. But if somehow you try to find the function here, let's say right click for certain function and then you can't see it, double check on the tool, which tool you're on. Okay, all right, so now let's get back to smooth curve and edit curvature tool. We will use this tool all the time when we're trying to create patterns. So I'm going to come over here, and once again, when you see this pointy head arrow above, which means that tool is edit tool. Or if you see the tool right here, that this pointy arrow right beneath to the right corner, which means that tool have a subtool. So if I click on that tool, you can see listed of many other tools right beneath it. So I have add point / split line, I have smooth curve, edit curvature, edit curve point, and so on. So in this case, we want to grab this smooth curve tool first. Click on it, and then here, this is what I'm talking about. So if you want to create curve right here for the waist, simply click, drag it outward, right click, and you can type in the measurement. And right here, the link icon, if I click on that link, now one change, if I change on line 1, it will affect on line 2. Let's say I'm going to type in 7 centimeter, and now both lines are 7 centimeter. Next, I'm going to click on OK to confirm. All right, after that, we want to curve this hip as well. However, though, instead of drag it out, we want to drag it in. So if the curve right here, if the pointy is out, we want to drag it in. If the pointy is in, we want to drag it out. So right now I'm going to click on this point here and then drag it in to create this curve. Okay, sorry guys, my computer a little bit funky. So I'm going to press on escape here. So after you click on this and then it doesn't work, you want to click on escape here to get out that tool. And I'm going to right click here, and now we're going to do it again. So click and then drag it in, right click, and then I'm going to type in this one, roughly 5 centimeter, or maybe 6. We want to create the perfect smooth curve, and I'm going to click one on the page here to this line. All right, so now we want to create hem curve here, as well as armhole and necks. Let's say if we decided to leave the necks as a V shape, we still want to create a henna curve here to make this neckline looks more natural. Okay, so I'm going to use this tool now. It's edit curvature tool, and shortcut key is C. So click on it, and I'm going to simply click All right. So the rule of thumb to create the perfect curve, it depends on which curve you want it from. If we want a curve from the bottom of the neck, we want to grab here from 1/3 from the bottom up. For example, right here, if we want to create this perfect armhole curve, let's hover the mouse over here roughly about 1/3 from the bottom, then drag it in to create this perfect curve just like that. Okay, the same with the next. Unless you want a curve from the top, you want to go from the top like 1/3 down. Let's say if I want to create a V-neck, but I just want to create a little bit natural curve here, I grab it from up here. And let's say I mess it up. I do not like this curve. You have two options to do this, okay? First option, you can use this. Actually, you use the edit pattern tool. You can adjust this handle here to get the curve you want. However though, let's say I still don't like this curve. It's just messed up. What can I do? So I can right click and then select split here and then click on OK. And then I can press on the delete or backspace on the keyboard to delete that point. Now the point removed, it creates the perfect lines again when like what we started. So that's another tip here on using this curve tool. If you mess up the curve, simply add a point, or I can also use the add point / split line tool, click on it and then press on delete to delete that point. Then this becomes the straight line once again. Okay, so now let's create the curve again. Simply use this edit curvature tool, click and then place the mouse there and then just drag it in to create this kind of natural curve. And I want to create this a little bit more kind of curve rather than, I don't like this curve here. I'm going to change this using this edit pattern tool here. Click right here and let it just a little bit like that. Now that's much better. So even though V-neck, to create this natural shape V-neck, we still want to create just a inner curve. Okay, and next we want to create curve here, and we will use this edit curvature tool here and simply drag down here. However though, let's say I'm not sure how much curve I want here, so I'm going to create a guideline. To create a guideline, once again I will use the transform pattern tool. Simply click and then drag it down here. We want to have the guideline just snap onto this point here. Okay, and the rule of thumb here, we want to create a curve and make sure that curve do not pass this straight line here, because when it passes this straight line it becomes really weird and we don't want that. So what we're going to do here, once again I'm going to add the point here and then press on delete or backspace on the keyboard to delete. And now I'm going to demonstrate how to create a curve that reach to this line right here. Before we're going to do that though, I want to lock this guideline. Once again, I'm going to press on letter Z here to get to my edit pattern tool, and then simply right click or hover the mouse over that guideline and right click. We want to select lock guideline. Okay, and now I'm going to create this curve. So I'm going to press on letter C here to get to that curve tool, and there you go. So this is the perfect curve that we want. We want the curve right here to reach right above that guideline. Okay, so that is one piece of pattern. So let's say if we want to make a copy of it. All right, so before we're going to do that though, I'm going to switch the tool back to transform pattern tool here. So if we right click on the workspace guide, we see many function and many tool that we also can find right here in this 2D, or so 2D for 2D workspace and 3D for 3D workspace. So right here, right click, we see many functions such as lock all pattern outline, unlock baseline, and unlock all guidelines for, as well as refresh texture, delete all baseline, and so on. So right here, it is important when we work on a pattern, if we click on the pattern itself, now we come to the property editor. That's where we see all the information that contain onto that pattern. Okay, so let's say for example we come over here, we want to see the particle distance. particle distance here 20, that's just by default. You can also change that to between, you can change it as 1 if your computer can handle. So important thing about particle distance, the bigger the particle distance, the more that the pattern have more space between. Let me change the to mesh so I can show you the difference between particle distance. So here mesh, right here we have 20 particle distance. If I change it to, let's say 10 and press on return enter on the keyboard, now the mesh here will become smaller. So the smaller the particle distance, the harder for the computer to work on. For example, right here. However, though, a certain function, let's say you want to animate your garment, you need the particle distance between 5 and 10. It depends on your garment piece. You can't go over 10 or you will see the collision between, let's say the avatar will poke through the garment itself, because you see right here the mesh is, the whole of the mesh is get bigger and more collision going on when it's compared to smaller particle distance. So all we need to remember here, if you want to animate your garment, you want to change your particle distance between 5 and 10. You can't go over that, okay? However, during the work process, I would recommend keep your particle distance to 20. I'm going to change it back to 20. This allows your computer to work more smoothly and it's faster. That's for sure. Because I'm working on from my MacBook Pro and I only have 16 gig RAM, which most 3D software they recommend 32 gig of RAM. But 16 gigs, okay. It just sometimes you get hot easily and you have to pay attention of your simulation process. If you heard the computer fan kick in, so be sure to check your simulation process, either to stop it for a little bit or check if your computer get really hot. You should pause for like 15 minutes and so let your computer cool down before you get back on. Alright, so this is just a tip for a Mac user guy from MacBook Pro. That's where I used to stream this right now. I run OBS as well as streaming as well as using CLO. It's actually quite durable, but again, it could get some hot in between and get static. Alright, so now let's change back to either monochrome or, so this is my, again, my favorite pattern function or garment rendering style that I like, is translucent surface. This is my favorite and I use that over and over because I get to see the avatar beneath it, okay? Alright, so now let's make a copy of this pattern and let's do this a little bit more fun stuff. We have been starting the tool, which is a little bit boring, but it's because essential to the process. For example, this notch tool here, we will use that notch tool. By the way, guys, if you guys new to CLO, this course here is a 30-minute crash course for CLO Basic, and I'm explaining everything that have to do with pattern making using CLO 3D to make the pattern. Alright, so right now we are going to make a copy here. So to make a copy, we have several options here. I can click on the pattern, right click, and then select symmetric pattern with sewing, just like that, and then press on shift here, click one right here to place the pattern. Or I'm going to delete that, or I can simply pressing on command or control plus letter C to copy, and then command or control plus letter V to make a copy and then paste. I'm going to place it and then to paste, just like that. Or one more option, I can simply, I'm going to delete this for now, so click on that and then press on the delete or backspace on the keyboard to delete. Or another function here, command D. So command plus letter D. So now I'm making the symmetric pattern with sewing. So this is useful function when you want to create a symmetric pattern with sewing with shortcut key command plus letter D. Command or control, guys. Alright, so here this is my pattern. So right now I'm going to unlink this pattern because I want to change one pattern for the back and one pattern for the front. So there is really good thing about using Close 3D to create pattern because we can make copy and copy. It's faster, easier compared to using compared to drafting pattern on paper and pencil. Alright, so I'm going to unlink this. Simply click on that pattern, right click, and then we want to select remove link editing. Okay, so right now this pattern here going to be back pattern. So I can label it, use this annotation tool here, and then click on right here. So bodice and back, and click on right here. I'm going to type in bodice front. Alright, so it's a good habit to labeling your pattern, so now you know which pattern is what, which is much easier. Alright, so now I'm going to modify here to be the front pattern. To modify it to be the front pattern, I'm going to use this edit pattern tool. I'm going to simply create these two lines to the front here. Click right here, right click, and then select offset as internal line here. And then I'm going to create two internal line and then one here. Let's change one to individual, and then we want to change that to selected line. So now I'm going to put the first value here, 1.5, and then press on the tab key. The second value going to be 1. Actually, I could do the other way around. So let's say 1 and then press on the tab key and then 1.5 or 1.25, and then I'm going to click on OK here to confirm. Alright, so next we want to draw the line from here to here. So to draw the line here, we want to simply use this internal polygon charge line tool here. We're going to click on there and we're going to simply click. And I'm going to cut this part here. And let's remove this. And also remove this internal line for now. Alright, next I'm going to curve this in a little bit further. Simply use this edit pattern tool. And let's click in and then curve in just like that. That actually much better. Alright, so next let's place this pattern onto the avatar. So before we're gonna do that, I will come over here to this 3D toolbar and then click on this reset to the arrangement all to reset the pattern. And let's bring them a little bit further here. And then I'm going to simply reset the pattern once again. And now we are going to place this pattern onto the avatar. To place the pattern, we'll come over here and then select this show arrangement point. And we want to click the front pattern first and then hover the mouse over this avatar, and then if you see the silhouette appear, click one right there to place the pattern. And I'm going to do the same right here for the back pattern. Click on it and then hover the mouse over it and then place it just like that. Next we are going to sew this pattern together. To sew the pattern, we will use this tool guide. So it's come to sewing tool here. Again, I explained them a little bit earlier how the more we do it, the better will become edit. So we have edit pattern tool here, and we have this more tool here, segment sewing tool, M and N sewing tool. So segment sewing tool, you can sew one segment to one segment. M and N sewing tool, you can sew from multiple segments, which the same basic idea, but you can sew multiple segments at once. And you will press on shift to do that. And here we have this free sewing tool and M to N free sewing tool. Alright, so the most sewing tool that we will use are edit sewing tool, segment sewing tool, and free sewing tool. So those are the 3 sewing tools that we will use over and over to create pattern. Okay, so to do that, we're going to use the segment sewing tool. simply click on it, and then I'm going to sew the point first. And be sure these sewing notch are parallel to one another, okay? And then we're going to do next here. So right here, we have multiple segments to sew to. We can use segment sewing tool. However, though, I prefer using free sewing tool because it is more efficient and easier. If I come over here and click on the free sewing tool, I can simply click and then hover the mouse down here, click once again to end, and then click from here, and then hover the mouse down here, and now we finished sewing this dress. Alright, next we're gonna make a copy. To make a copy, once again, we'll change the tool here to transform pattern tool. My key selects both the pattern pieces, right click, and then we want to select symmetric pattern with sewing. Okay, and I'm going to press on shift. So when we press on shift, it allows us to see this guideline, which means we can click one right here to place the pattern on the workspace and release the shift. Now this pattern will stay along straight from one to the next. So right here now we have the pattern kind of level with one another. Next we want to sew the back and the front together. To do that, we'll use the segment sewing tool because we only have one segment. Right here to here and right here to here. Alright, so next let's simulate. Before we're gonna simulate though, I'm going to strengthen this pattern first. And once again guys, be sure to my key select all the pattern pieces, right click, and then select strengthen. Alright, let's simulate. Click on the simulation button to simulate. Okay, and then click on once again to stop the simulation. So actually it's not that bad guys for the first pattern. It's looking pretty good. However though, we can help a little bit here. With the armhole, we can make it a little bit smaller, which we can do that. Or when we drag the pattern, we can drag it smaller. In this case, let's fix it with elastic tool. So when it's come to sewing or creating pattern in clothes, we also have certain realistic apply onto the garment to bring the garment to realistic look. One of them, elastic, and then the second one, top stitches and so on. To, let's say I'm going to unstrengthen this pattern for now, and let's simulate once again. So let's say we want to create a realistic look for the dress. We want to apply top stitches, and let's say instead of we folding the hem, we want to create double stitches right here along the hem, and then the neck, and then the armhole, and so on. And in this case, let's do a couple of things first. Apply the elastic here so we can create this fitted armhole. To do that, I will switch the tool here to edit pattern tool here, and then we want to click one right here, and then press on shift, click one right here. So since these patterns are linked together, we only need to apply one onto the front and one onto the back. To do that, we'll come over here to the property editor, and if we scroll down here, we see elastic. Click on that to turn on and change the strength here to 3, then press on return, enter on the keyboard. And I'm going to change these to, let's say 100, the ratio, and then press on return, enter on the keyboard. And let's simulate here. And as you can see right here now, the armhole fitted better, and it looks more kind of tension between the fabric itself. So look more natural, that's what I'm trying to say. And I'm going to, let's strengthen, and then simulate here, and then stop and strengthen. Okay, so this is, by the way guys, is a default fabric, and we want to change the fabric to, let's say, different kind of fabric, for example like knit or cotton. To do that, we will come over here to the library tab here, and then double click on this fabric folder, and you can either drag and drop from here right now, or you can type in here a search box to search. Let's say I want lace, and type in lace, and then press on return, enter on the keyboard. Let's see what kind of lace fabric do they have, and you can hover the mouse over that to see the fabric. So we have plenty of sheer like chiffon, or oh, this one look kind of cute, more like mesh. And let's come down here. So we do have a lot of sheer right here, actually pretty cute. You can simply drag and drop onto that fabric one right there, and now we're gonna apply the fabric onto right here. So actually this is look kind of cute, by the way. And okay, so first of all, we have some more work to do for this dress. Right here we want to remove this, or more like kind of curve in a little bit better, or if you don't want to curve it in, we can expand this, make it more like an A-line dress. Now the dress right here, a little bit loose fit, is perfect. But for this dress, it's more like a straight line shape for the dress. We have to curve this to have this fit look. If we want to create this as an A-line skirt, we want to expand the hem and leave the hip curve as is. So another thing I want to point out here, I see a lot of clothes designer make this mistake. So when they create, let's say, a 6 score or 8 score, 7 score skirt or dress, they don't balance the pattern, which is a great mistake if we create a real garment. In clothes, you don't really see it that much, but if you turn this garment into a real life garment, it would be a huge mistake, because each pattern you want to have an equally balance from one to the next. I mean, if you've been working or making pattern for a while, you probably understand what I'm saying. You want the pattern to have balance from one side to the next, to have the perfect flow and enhance how the fabric work on the body. But if the pattern is imbalanced, now the fabric won't flow right, and it doesn't look good. It looks really horrible. Alright, so right now it is 30 minutes past, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope to see you guys next week. And remember to check out my full courses as a member, as well as I have free courses on Encoder fashion. So once again, thank you so much for being here, and next week we will continue basic of clothes, focusing on clothes beginner, making pattern using clothes 3D to create a beautiful pattern. Thank you guys so much for being here, and see you next week. Bye.